onto the wing tank fuel assembly. And I don't know if my mind's just weird, but I was totally overthinking this. I could not wrap my head around what that little plate is for. I made little dimensions out of sticky notes trying to get the best size until I actually looked at the tank, and basically they just want you to put it over this hole and you slide the tank into the wing with the plate on it. You find the center, and the metal plate, the aluminum plate, will act as the pilot hole for the arbor, so you can center it and cut the 3-inch hole out of it. I don't know. Like I said, I couldn't wrap my head around it until I actually watched some videos, and well, all you gotta do is read the next line, but somehow I must have missed that. Won't probably be doing that tonight, because I like making my life more difficult. I was pondering about flipping the wings over, and I have these aluminum 3x3s that I've been using before, but they're not long enough. It'll kind of put unnecessary tension there, which is kind of the high spot anyway. Long story short, at one time I had made an extra set of these because I don't really know why. I thought maybe I'd be working on both wings simultaneously, which I never did, obviously, because I don't even have the space. So I'm going to convert these to be the jig for the bottom. Meaning when the wing is right side up, they'll sit in these jigs, and it'll be basically very, very similar to that. So this is basically the cutout that I have to make here, and we just chop it off in the back there, and then I can put them on the bench, and I don't have to worry about the pitot tube. Won't fit, that's too deep, but I won't have to worry about the truss brace mount, tie down mount, or any of the hinge mounts sticking out, or even no, I take it back, the clecos have to come out. So I'm gonna bring those and cut those out. Here's what I came up with. This is basically the negative shape, well, the negative to the bottom of the wing. So same kind of stand, but it just allows me to be able to put the wing on the table and flip it, make it easier to work. All right, that went pretty well. Definitely glad I had some help. And that's not my help. Now you can visualize the fuel tank. I'm gonna take these out, open up the side of the rib that we never finished, or never clecoed in, never riveted in, we clecoed in, and start marking some holes, drilling some holes, and moving on. All right, so as fancy as my little wing supports here are, they're a little bit too low. So you can see I put these foam yoga blocks in here to lift it up, primarily just to get the clecos in from underneath. So getting this thing in, I kind of figured might be a little bit of a challenge, and it wasn't actually that bad. I used a wing tool up top to push down the tank support braces, and once you get to this point, you'll see what I'm talking about. Getting this rib, which is a solid rib and not very straight, it kind of wants to bend no matter how much you flute it, or at least mine did. To get that back in there and get it sandwiched between the tank support and the upper skin, and the same thing on the bottom. So you got to work the whole top and then the whole bottom to get it in. I kind of thought it'd be a complete nightmare, just ahead of time having to do that, and it wasn't really all that bad. So my main objective was basically to get this thing in and see how much movement I have. Like, is there any play in the tank? Like, how accurate does this hole need to be? Because if it moves forward and backwards 1/4 of an inch, then I don't want to be at the extreme. Then I want to move it, you know, center it 1/8 of an inch, and then cut my hole. So, and from what I can tell, that's exactly about what it looks like. It moves, maybe not quite 1/4 of an inch, but a little more than 1/8. So I'm basically going to push it all the way back, make a mark, push it all the way forward, make a mark, push it all the way left or outbound, make a mark, and all the way inbound, make a mark, and then center my hole off of that. Okay, as suspected, I don't know if you can see here, these are the 2 lines. So I moved it all the way inboard, made a line, and I moved it all the way outboard and made a line. That's a little bit less than 1/4 inch difference, but there was a significant difference front to rear. So this is about 1 inch. So you have, if you slide the tank all the way forward, this is 1 line. You slide it all the way back, that's the other line. And there you go. So what I'm going to do is basically try to center it as best as possible, which is right about there. So you can see, you know, these lines are about 1/8 of an inch in, and these lines are about 1/2 of an inch in. So theoretically that should be the center and have equal play in all directions. All right, kind of disregard what I was just saying. I thought I was being smarter than Randy, but I'm not. And the next step is to actually get these things lined up kind of in the center of the radius. So if you put this tank into the center the way I had it, thinking I was so smart, these actually get blocked here and here. So I'll move it forward again. This lines up much more gooder. So ideally it looks as if you want to pull the tank forward rather than backward, because we all need a forward CG is better, and on the other hand it gives you more room back here. So saved by reading the instructions. So I fabricated my little jig here according to the instructions, and I had some painted dowel from a wire rack and wouldn't you know it, I guess it's just because of the paint, it was literally just a micron too thick. So when I drilled the centering number 11 hole here, just sanded it down, and now it's a perfect fit. This is a piece of acrylic, and just so I could write on it, or Lexan, I'm not sure what it is. I put some blue tape on it, and basically now I'll just line those up, drill a couple of 40 holes, and put some small screws. All right, with my little magic jig made, slides in perfect now. Then I already did this, but the camera wasn't running, so basically just use a long drill bit, and I think the idea is just to make sure it's in nice and level. And I didn't drill through the tank, I just marked it. And same thing up there. And like I said earlier, I couldn't wrap my head around this little top piece because I was overthinking it. And I actually made it just like the instructions say. But ultimately all we're trying to do is get a centering hole for the arbor of the hole saw, so I don't need to drill this hole until after. It was a little unclear. So basically I'm just going to copy those two outside holes onto that. You screw this thing Let me grab the camera. Basically screw this thing anywhere near that hole. Then you find the center based on the cutout in the wing skin. Use that as a guide wherever that ends up. It could be totally off center. And you drill your hole that way. So basically it's just centered within that. So all right, so I screwed that in, and the reason I took the side off is to pull the tank out again, but I was actually curious as to where these things land, and confidence is further installed that I have to have these things in pretty close to the right position because they're kind of centered with the cutouts there. So that was like the back position that I had. But I definitely feel confident that the forward position is where it should be. So that's what I'm going for. I'll line it up there. And then, maybe a little hard to tell, but those markings, I don't know if you can see it in there, the marking from the drill bit, I didn't drill through, but they look to be right on. So really happy about that. Time to drill some holes. So since they said it had to be centered, like I said, it looks pretty good. I found a washer that kind of fits in there. So it matches the radius out here. That radius gets tighter as it goes in there, but maybe just the way the tank is extruded. But it gives me a good idea of where the middle of this is. So that didn't write too good. But I think between my markings and double checking it with this, we'll be in good shape. Alright, I have to do a little research here. Set the fuel cap assembly centered in a 3-inch hole. Done. Use the circle drawn on the tank as a centering guide. Done. Orientate the cap with the large drilled hole for the fuel vent to the outboard side. No hole. Transfer drill the holes in the cap assembly through the tank using a number 11 drill. I'm confused, but I don't know what I'm thinking. I figured it out. This is an old fuel cap that they no longer use, and this is an old retaining ring that they no longer use. There's videos on their website, and here you have to rivet the nut plates on, and it's kind of cumbersome to put in, and it's also very thin, so it doesn't help in supporting this all that much inside the tank. So they have a newer version that this is milled with the threads machined into it, and it looks to be have a sleeve on it to actually help support this guy in there, and this comes pre-drilled. Anyway, I called Shelly today. It's $270. You have to buy it. They have no use for the old caps and rings, so you can't trade it, and that's what I ordered. So there you have it. In the meantime, after I was over at my friend's house, George, looking at the fuselage, making some progress, I grabbed some stuff for the seats. So Scully and I are going to work on the seats until my fuel cap shows up. I'll let you know how that goes. Okay, back to the fuel caps. The seats are done. I posted that video, so we're like a couple of weeks forward now. I have the new fuel caps that came in. These are the old ones. I was kind of trying to figure out what the difference is. They sure, to the naked eye, look very similar, other than these obviously are pre-drilled. One thing I did notice is this is the old cap. When you put it in, that fits tight. Both new caps, when you put them in, are loose. Now, obviously, next thing I check is it the cap or is it the ring? But it appears to be the cap. So something is different in there too. I haven't quite figured out what yet, but anyway, almost $300 later, I have the new rings, I have the new fuel caps. Don't get them mixed up, I marked them. And these are the retaining rings. Like I said, the old ones are very thin. This has, they're all billet, really nice, built in. And when the fuel support is in the tank, this just, I'm guessing, gives it more support, doesn't allow it to fall out. And I don't think I'm going to do anything tonight other than get a game plan. Alright, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out, because I certainly am not one. But 3/8, tighten that a half a turn, no more rattle, no more rattle. All fixed. I feel better. Next up is drilling the actual holes. 5 number 11s and a 3/8 hole. And just to make sure I have it centered properly, I basically took a square, measured the back, measured the front, and then did the same thing on the other side. Those are these light red lines. Then that's obviously 3 inches because it's the far aft and far forward. Half of that, half an inch, and marked my holes with the fuel cap in place. Drilled them, fit it, deburred. Now I'm doing the next one. Next dilemma. The little thingy there looks like it's 1 inch from the bottom, but 1 3/16 from the inside of the radius edge. So I had to resort to zooming up my laptop, and obviously it's definitely from the inside edge. So this is sideways. So from the inside edge here, and from the outside edge on the other one. Truth be told, it probably doesn't matter. It's just got to be, oh sorry, actually right here in this area, but I'm going with that. All right, got this guy in with the support. I don't have the thread lock on yet. And I think I'm going to switch the wings tomorrow just so I can catch up on the other tank. I said thread lock, I meant thread sealant. I have to go get some. And yeah, so thinking a little bit ahead. I'm going to paint this black, I believe. The decals are glossy black outline with the white on the inside. I think that'll look good. Easy to read. And what else? Oh, I think that's it. Actually, started thinking about the wingtips, and this is going to be pretty cool. I hope I can get them to fit nicely. And yeah, I know you're tired. Me too. Going to bed. It's like 11. So that was today's progress. Pretty happy with that. Alright, the good part about this little section with the fuel cap and fuel tank and all that stuff is I got to check off a lot of steps here, so sense of accomplishment. I did put the fuel tank in 2 or 3 times because when you line it up with the sight, the little jig that you had to make on the left one, all other ones were centered perfectly. Like I put that washer in, I think I showed that earlier, and this one was just a hair bit forward, so I was kind of going back and forth on, you know, should I just center it anyway and then bend this thing or whatever. So I kind of went with where the marking was, I suppose the way it should be, and then just assume that the tank's not 100% true. And then I actually look, the first one I did is a little bit forward as well, so at least they're symmetrical. But yeah, got those guys in, and the blue Loctite is curing right now. And I guess eventually, not too far in the distant future, will be the dreaded ProSeal. I did open up this tube and read up a little bit on how you gotta dispense it and mix it and all that stuff. So I have one of these guns that we use at work. It's for the 3M twin tube body seam sealer stuff, so we'll see how that goes. Oh, I also took these 2 last ribs out. I'll take the gasket back out and the rubber grommet, and I'm going to paint them black. And there you have them, black. So I put a little bit of CA glue on the top of these just to keep them on there, and I also bought some painless wrap. Trying to figure out what's the neatest way to get all, this is the left wing, so it's got 2 pitos and the lights, the landing light, strobe light, and the heater for the pitot all in there. But following on the gas tanks, I'm going to put some thread sealer on these fittings and the back fitting, and that's tonight's project. I'm using the Loctite 592